On July 31st, a federal judge in Colorado did something that's never happened in college basketball history. She reopened rosters that coaches thought were locked. Every player from the high school class of 2022 who used up 4 years of eligibility just got handed a fifth. In the first 12 days of August alone, dozens of the best players in the sport have re-entered the market. We're ranking the best names 1 through 25. We're telling you who's committed, who's still deciding, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and for everyone still deciding, I'm going to make the prediction myself. Let's go. We're starting here because nothing else on this list is even close. Donovan Dent retired from basketball in May. Actually retired, on purpose, went undrafted and walked away. Then Gonzaga lost its starting point guard to a EuroLeague contract, and Dent unretired to chase a fifth year. He's an elite table setter, 20.4 points and 6.4 assists as a junior at New Mexico, but any program paying for him is betting he's locked back in. Gonzaga's roster is basically full, and the real remaining target is a French pro, not Donovan Dent. LSU is down to 4 scholarship players with real money to spend, and they just landed Skyy Clark, Dent's old UCLA backcourt mate. I think he follows him to Baton Rouge. Darrion Williams is the cleanest redemption arc in college basketball right now. First team All-Big 12 at Texas Tech, took a 1-year swing at NC State as ACC preseason player of the year, and it didn't click. His numbers and impact both dipped. He committed back to Texas Tech on August 7th. No lingering recruitment. Straight home. He's a true do-everything forward who scores in the post, handles in transition, and passes well enough to run offense at 6'6". Paired with fellow transfer Jamichael Stillwell and a healthy JT Toppin, Grant McCasland might have a legitimate top 5 offense in the country if last year's version of Darrion Williams shows up instead of the one who struggled at NC State. Jaxon Kohler put up 13 double-doubles last year, including 21 and 13 in a road win at Indiana. With the rebounding resume in the national top 25, he's an absolute load on the glass, and he's working on expanding his range so he can fit in modern offenses. Kentucky and Kansas got in first. Louisville jumped in later, and a return to East Lansing is still on the table. But the read right now is BYU, a program that's been aggressive with fifth-year targets and offers a homecoming angle none of the Blue Bloods can match. Nothing signed, but I think he ends up in Provo. Mark Mitchell might be the biggest surprise name on this whole list. He averaged 18.3 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 3.6 assists last year for Missouri, and he still went completely unpicked in the 2026 NBA draft. A real stat stuffer who scores from all 3 levels, but the reason he keeps going undrafted, despite the numbers, is a real question mark around explosiveness and defensive consistency against elite length. He's reportedly expected to command over $5 million for his 5th year, which tells you exactly how badly programs want him. Kentucky is circling the hardest, looking to slide him in at forward next to Milan Momcilovic, and I think that's exactly where he lands. Moe Odum's situation shows last year's commitment doesn't mean much right now. He committed to Arizona State in the 2025 cycle and had a career year there. 16.4 points and 5.7 assists, 4th in the nation. But Bobby Hurley is out in Tempe, replaced by Randy Bennett. And Odum entered the transfer portal fresh during the August 3rd to 10th window instead of running it back. He's elite offensively across the board, a true table setter who also spaces the floor with elite shooting, the kind of guard who scores efficiently and still makes everyone else better. No confirmed suitors have surfaced yet, a genuinely open market for a player this good. Keyshawn Hall might be the best player still fully unattached, All-SEC third team last year at Auburn, averaging 19.3 points and 7.1 rebounds on 45, 38, 86 shooting splits, an efficiency line close to unheard of at his usage. Though there are real questions about his defensive consistency and whether it holds up against a tougher level of competition every night instead of a handful of marquee games. Here's the swing factor. St. John's just lost Donnie Freeman, their best frontcourt piece for the season, to a torn Achilles, right after already losing 3 players to the NBA draft. That's a gaping hole and real money sitting there to fill it fast. I think Hall ends up in Queens, not Lexington. Seth Trimble entered the transfer portal this spring, hoping to stay at North Carolina if a 5th year came through, and when it didn't happen in time, he pursued the NBA instead of waiting on a maybe that might never materialize. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in the sport, with a track record of guarding the other team's best perimeter player in the biggest moments, but he's never been a knockdown shooter, and Louisville will need him to play off the ball more than he's used to. Once the ruling landed, he didn't go back to Chapel Hill. He committed to in-state rival Louisville instead, a storyline only a chaotic second portal window could ever produce. BJ Edwards had the cleanest eligibility case on this list, part of the Tennessee ruling that grants an unrestricted right to transfer, no waiver needed, so no program has to worry about him getting yanked back by an appeal. He led his conference in steals and shot 37% from 3 on heavy volume, a rare two-way combination, though most of that production has come off the catch rather than off the dribble, so there's a real question about whether he can be trusted as a primary shot creator. Gonzaga wanted him early before pivoting elsewhere, and USC was reportedly well-positioned late, but Oklahoma got the call yesterday, and the Sooners now have 15 players on next year's roster. Duke Brennan is one of the biggest names still sitting on the board, and he averaged over 12 points and 10 rebounds a game last year at Villanova, the first Wildcat to average a double-double in almost 4 decades, a dominant rebounder who finishes through contact, though he's not a rim protector and doesn't step out to shoot, so whoever lands him is getting a bruiser, not a stretch center. His agent had confirmed contact from North Carolina, Villanova, USC, Georgetown, and more, but Oregon's out of the running now. They already landed Malik Ewan at the same position. My money's on Georgetown instead. Denzel Aberdeen won a national title at Florida in 2025 off the bench, transferred to Kentucky for a bigger role, and averaged 13.5 points and 3.4 assists running the point after Jalen Lowe went down injured. Real production when it mattered most. He's battle-tested, a national champion who's proven he can run an offense, though the inconsistency across 3 roles at 2 schools makes it hard to say what his true ceiling is as a full-time starter over a whole season. When this 5th year opened up, he didn't take a single other visit. He just committed straight back to Florida in April. Arizona just made a Final Four run and somehow got more talented, doing it in the transfer portal. Godfrey is a high-level athlete who finishes above the rim and can guard multiple positions, exactly what Tommy Lloyd's switching defense wants, though he's still an unfinished offensive product outside of transition. Lloyd landed him with the same pitch that's worked for years in Tucson. Real minutes immediately, in a system that gets NBA scouts to notice you. This is depth insurance for a team supposed to be right back in title contention next year. Jordan Pope isn't caught up in this ruling. He helped cause it. One of the plaintiffs who filed the age-based eligibility lawsuit in April alongside Donovan Dent. He's a pure shot maker who can get hot off movement, though he's undersized defensively, and there are real questions about how much he creates off the dribble versus scoring off designed actions. Gonzaga's been mentioned, but with their last spot down to a French pro and Xaivian Lee, I don't think that holds. Kansas has been rebuilding its backcourt, and I think that's exactly where Pope ends up landing this fall. UCLA built its entire offseason without Clark on the roster, and yesterday he made it official. LSU, joining a program down to 4 scholarship players with the real money to spend. He's a real threat as a scorer, 11.5 points a game, shooting 47% from the field and 43% from 3. Splits about as good as it gets for a combo guard, though he's still more of a scorer than a table setter. Clark and Donovan Dent were UCLA's backcourt mates last year, and I've got Dent landing at LSU too, which would give the Tigers a genuinely dangerous perimeter duo overnight. Jason Edwards has changed schools before and led a team in scoring doing it, averaging over 16 points a game the last time he had a full-time role. A proven scorer who can get his own shot, though efficiency and shot selection are real concerns given how much of that production came on high volume. He was caught up in the same 3-school chase as BJ Edwards, Oklahoma, USC, and Ole Miss, but Oklahoma just took the other Edwards today, so that seat's filled. I'm calling USC here instead. They still need exactly this kind of scoring punch off the bench. Desmond Claude's already changed schools twice, Xavier to USC to Washington, and word is he's about to make it 3 times, jumping back into the transfer portal instead of settling in for year 2. He's an explosive downhill scorer who can get to the rim against almost anybody, averaging 15.8 points a game the last time he had a real role at USC, though his efficiency has dipped at each new stop, so consistency, not talent, is the real question mark here. There's no clear frontrunner, too early to say with confidence, but if I had to guess, I'd say Alabama, a program with real money and a real need at guard, especially after their own transfer losses this offseason. Xaivian Lee is the wildcard of this entire class. As a junior at Princeton, he averaged 16.9 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 5.5 assists on 36.6% shooting from 3. Genuine first-round buzz. Then he moved to Florida and had a rockier senior year, 11.6 points and 4.2 assists against just 1.7 turnovers. Elite ball security, but his three-point shot collapsed to 29.9% in SEC play. Gonzaga's actual top target for the last spot is Nathan DeSouza, a French pro guard, not Lee. But if that falls through, expect them to circle back to him fast, since the timeline is tight. MJ Collins is one of the quieter commitments on this list, but Cincinnati moved early and decisively, locking him in before the bidding wars for bigger names even started. He's a proven scorer at the Mountain West level who gives Cincinnati instant offense without a long adjustment period. The real question is the level jump, since there's limited data on how his game translates against Big 12 length and athleticism. Still, he's exactly the kind of veteran to build around, while other programs are stuck waiting on their own decisions, and Cincinnati already knows what it has. Jamichael Stillwell's calling card is dead simple. He crashes the offensive glass better than almost anybody in the country. He led the Horizon League in rebounding at Milwaukee, then was one of the best offensive rebounders in the Big 12 last year at UCF, with multiple offensive boards in 24 of his 31 games, but a limited offensive game outside of putbacks with no real perimeter shot to speak of. Texas Tech targeted him to pair with Darrion Williams' return. Betting a roster full of shooters needed one guy whose whole job is cleaning up the misses underneath, night after night, without complaint. Chauncey Wiggins might be the most important role fit addition in this class. He hit 39% of nearly 6 3-point attempts a game at Florida State, an incredible number for a 6'10" player, but he's not a rim protector and can get pushed around on the glass against bigger, more physical fours. He turns Gonzaga's starting five into one of the most switchable lineups in the country, alongside Davis Fogel, Braden Huff, and Masamba Diop. This is one of two additions that already filled most of Gonzaga's roster, which is why their last spot is a fight for a point guard, not another wing. Riley Kugel has already played at 3 schools, Florida, Mississippi State, UCF, and shot a career 42% from 3 doing it, averaging 14.5 points a game last year as UCF's leading scorer. He's one of the more reliable movement shooters in this entire class, though bouncing around 3 programs raises real questions about fit and consistency. He signed a summer league tryout deal with the Clippers after going undrafted, but he's pursuing this 5th year instead of walking away from college ball entirely. No frontrunner yet, too early to say for certain, but if I had to guess, Creighton, a program that's rarely without a knockdown shooter. Cameron Corhen put up 9.4 points and nearly 4 rebounds a game in his best year at Pitt. An efficient scorer who shot well above 55% from the floor for his career, though his game is limited to around the rim, with no real perimeter shot to space the floor. If Kansas misses on Jaxon Kohler, and I think they will, since I've got Kohler landing at BYU, Corhen becomes exactly the kind of ready-now piece Bill Self gets as a fallback option. I'm calling it Kansas filling the gap left behind by another failed pursuit at the position. Tre Holloman left Michigan State's Big Ten title roster last spring for a bigger role at NC State, and it didn't move the needle. He's a proven winner with meaningful minutes on a title team, though the offensive numbers are modest, and at some point, he needs a bigger season to prove there's more in the tank. He entered the portal August 9th, only a few days ago. Izzo's already said on the radio a former player reached out with regrets. I think Holloman ends up back in East Lansing. Watch LSU too. Purely a guess. Will Wade coached him at NC State and knows exactly what he'd be getting. This is the most program-shifting small name on the list. Jalen Washington averaged under 9 points a game last year, but he's a terrific rim runner and rebounder who does the dirty work that doesn't always show up in the box score. The scoring numbers are modest since he doesn't have much range. Barnes needed frontcourt bodies more than another scorer and moved fast instead of bidding for him. Washington gives Tennessee a 5-out option next to Dwayne Brown and Miles Rubin. The difference between a top 25 outlook and a real title frontcourt for the Volunteers this season, on paper at least. Javon Bennett shot 35% from 3 on 7 attempts a game last year for Dayton, and by advanced metrics, he barely turns the ball over too. A 9.6% turnover rate in the 86th percentile nationally. Elite decision-making for his size. He's undersized for the position defensively, which likely means Gonzaga plays him next to a bigger guard rather than a true lead ball handler on both ends. Gonzaga lost his starting point guard to a EuroLeague contract and needed a steady hand fast. Bennett fills the spot, though the Zags have made clear a bigger name is still the priority for that final roster spot. Tae Davis has already played at 3 schools, Seton Hall, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and averaged 13 points and 5.6 rebounds a game last year. A well-rounded forward who contributes across the board on both ends. He wants a 5th season, but the transfer window this ruling reopened is technically closed for players in his exact spot unless he joins an active lawsuit, and he isn't listed as a plaintiff. Right now, his biggest weakness isn't on the court, it's the paperwork, and it's genuinely too early to tell, but if this gets sorted out, my guess is he stays at Oklahoma next year. 25 players and a court appeal that could unwind half of this list by October. I made a call on every single uncommitted name. Dent to LSU, with Gonzaga likely out entirely, Kohler to BYU, Mitchell to Kentucky, Hall to St. John's off the Donnie Freeman injury, Brennan to Georgetown now that Oregon's out of the picture, and Xaivian Lee to Gonzaga if their pro target falls through. Skyy Clark and BJ Edwards both already made it official. Tell me which ones I got wrong in the comments. I'll pin the best argument. And I'm coming back to grade myself once these actually land. See you in the next one.